There you go.
I can hear you guys.
Perfect.
Awesome. We'll go ahead and get started. We'd like to welcome Rory McIlroy into the interview room here at the CJ Cup at Summit. Rory, you're making your season debut. Last season, you finished 14th in the FedEx Cup standings, picked up your 19th career win, had 7 top 10 finishes. We could just get a recap of last season.
Yeah. I mean, last season was okay in parts, and thank you for highlighting the good stuff. But yeah, it was it's nice to get another win. I had stretches of play where I played pretty well. Felt like I was sort of turned a corner a little bit at the end of the season. Had a couple of nice finishes there. Caves Valley, I played well, and Tour Championship, felt like I played pretty good. So yeah, it was it's a quick turnaround. Obviously, I had a couple weeks, and then Ryder Cup in another couple weeks. So just it's nice to get back out playing again and get back into the routine. And good to this tournament I played last year at Shadow Creek as well. It's a nice gentle introduction to the season. 70 whatever players, no cut. Feel like you can, you're going out there to compete and play and try to win, but at the same time, you can maybe try a couple things out in your golf game that you're maybe working on, and so it's a nice way to start the season.
Awesome, and a great segue into my next question. You're making your second start here at the CJ Cup. As you mentioned, different course. Just overall thoughts on the tournament and then the Summit Club or what you saw of it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we all know that the CJ Cup's real home is in South Korea, and because of the way the world is, it's been here in Vegas the last couple of years. But it's been good. I really enjoyed myself last year at Shadow Creek. I've gotten pretty familiar with Summit over the last few days. I've played 36. I played 18 on Monday, 9 yesterday, 9 today. So feel like I know the course pretty well. And it's it's typical desert golf. It sort of reminds me a little bit of the course we played for the match play in Arizona, Dove Mountain in Tucson. It reminds me a little bit of that. So yeah, I mean, desert golf, you just you keep it on the green stuff, and the greens here are pretty generous in the fairways. So if you get it going, I think you'll all see quite a few low scores out there.
Awesome. With that, we'll open it up to questions. First up, Greg Robertson with the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Hey, Rory, you kind of answered a little bit about Summit. I was going to ask you just general impressions. Do you think when you're playing a course that nobody really has ever seen before, how does that affect your preparation?
Yeah, I mean, I think more than anything, it's just getting comfortable with lines off tees and clubs that you're going to hit off tees, and I mean that's the real for me anyway. When I try to prepare for golf courses, it's really tee shots and lines and making sure you're trusting where you're aiming and hitting it, and I feel like I've had enough time over the course of this week to do that. I mean, the greens are there's some they're pretty apparent. Obviously everything here up the hill wants to try to go back towards the strip, so at least you have some idea of what putts are going to do. But yeah, it's a good course. I mean, as I said, there's probably a couple of drivable par fours out there. The par fives are reachable. If you keep it in play and you get hot with the wedges and the putter, you're going to see a few low scores.
Do you think there's an advantage for players like Colin and Maverick, who are members out here, who know all the tricks?
Not really. I don't think it. Maybe if the course was playing a bit differently, but it's quite soft at the minute. So the ball's sort of hitting and staying where it lands. So there's not too many nuances around here where course experience is going to be that valuable.
Great. Thank you.
Next up, Steve DeMeglia with USA Today.
Rory, do you have your schedule set out for the rest of the year?
Yeah, Steve, I'll play here. I'll play DP World in Dubai, and then I'll play the Hero World Challenge. They're the three I'm playing the rest of the year.
Do you set your goals now, or do you wait till until the end of the year, or how is that process? I mean, I know it's a season opener for you, but how does that work in your mind?
I think goals are always, you always have to readjust, and you always have to sort of reframe them, depending on the situation. But yeah, I mean, I guess I've got a couple of goals in mind, just in terms of where my golf game is and where I might want to be starting 2022. So that gives me, whatever it is, 10 or 11 weeks till the end of this year to work on some good stuff and, feel comfortable heading into the next calendar year, I guess.
And I was just wondering, were you surprised at how emotional you got on that Sunday at the Ryder Cup? Have you watched it by any chance to see any clip of it? But did that surprise you, even though I know how emotional you are about the Ryder Cup?
Yeah, I don't necessarily get that emotional about golf. So I guess in that way it surprised me. But it's like, as you know, it's a very emotionally charged week, and I said afterwards that there were so many different thoughts and emotions going. There was relief that I want to point. There was frustration that I didn't get more out of myself, and disappointment I didn't do more for the team. So there was so many different sort of emotions going through me there, and it was just all a little overwhelming in a way. And look, it's a tough week. You're playing a Ryder Cup on the road, and that's tough enough in itself. But then whenever you don't play the way you want to, it's disappointing. So, but I think it was a good thing for me. I think I maybe realized a couple of things about myself that I hadn't, or maybe I had known, but I was, maybe trying to, to keep down and not let them out, or I don't know. It was just, I was surprised at how emotional I got, but then after a little bit of reflection over the last couple of weeks, I sort of realized why I did get that way.
Thank you, sir.
Next up, Chris Datchers with Golf Channel.
Hey, Rory, just wanted to ask you about the USGA putting out the local rule yesterday, limiting clubs to 46 inches max, and just get your reaction to that.
Yeah, I don't think, it might make a difference, going forward. I think, the trend was there of guys going to longer clubs and using them, and but I think it's more of a preventative measure. I think if this is as far as they want the ball to go, I think we're too far past like trying to roll it back. But if this sort of setting the limit, I think it's just a preventative measure for the future. So I don't think it'll make a world of difference. But I was in all those meetings when we discussed it, for quite a while, and I think the majority of players are on board with it.
Thank you.
Next up, David Facey with The Sun.
Hi, Rory. Just want to ask you about the world rankings. It seems astonishing to us that you're number 14. I wonder what you think of your game when you've got your A game back. Do you still think number one's a realistic possibility for you?
Yeah, I think when I play my best, I'm the best player in the world. Haven't played like that for a while though, but I don't feel like I need to go that far back to, whenever the pandemic hit, whatever it was 18 months ago, I was the number one player in the world. So I don't have to look that far back to see my name at the top of the rankings. And obviously the last 18 months haven't been what I've wanted them to be. But if you keep it in perspective, it's I'm not that far away. And there's a ton of great players now that play really good golf, and I feel like the talent pool is just getting deeper and deeper every year. So you have to strive to keep trying to get better to stay where you want to stay. So yeah, it's it's not the position I want to be in, but at the same time, it's not. There's so many other guys that are trying to do the same thing as I'm doing, and I realize that the competition gets tougher each and every year, and you just have to try to not just keep up with that, but try to become better.
And was the Ryder Cup maybe a sign that perhaps you've been too hard on yourself at times, Rory, and tried to push it maybe too quickly?
No, if anything, I think it's probably the other way around. I think sometimes I give myself too easy of a time, and I try to, I try to play it off with, golf doesn't define me, and I've got balance in my life, and I'm happy away from the course, and that's obviously very true. But if I'm honest, sometimes I sort of maybe use that as a way to lessen the blow if I don't play good golf. So yeah, it's probably the other way around.
Okay, thanks. Have a great week, Rory.
Thanks.
Next up, Doug Ferguson with the Associated Press.
Morning, Rory.
Hi, Doug.
Are there differences when you consider this tournament this year, same time of the schedule, same city, but what we don't have is the Masters looming at the end of the year. Does that change at all kind of your outlook, process, preparation, whatever word that I can't find this one?
Yeah, I guess a little bit. Yeah, there was, it was a pretty intense end of the year last year, everyone trying to get ready, and yeah, I know, I hadn't even thought about it, but yeah, it was, if I go back to Shadow Creek 12 months ago, yeah, well, Masters was only a few weeks away, and you were wanting, we played Zozo at Sherwood, and
You were building towards something.
yeah, you were.
Yes.
You were building towards something, and here, I guess you're building to, you're starting off your season, and you're trying to get off to a good start, but what's the word I'm trying to look for?
Don't ask me.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say we're both struggling with words this morning, Doug.
Hurts me more than you.
Not the intensity, but the you're just sort of trying to ease your way back into sort of the season, and not looking too far ahead to this massive thing that's probably gonna be the end of your year.
What do you, and just to follow on that, what do you have planned for the rest of the year, and where do you plan to start next year?
Yeah, so the rest of this year I'm going to play here. I'll play the DP World Tour Championship in Dubai, and then I'll play Hero World Challenge. Sort of liking these limited field events; they feel quite nice. So, and then I'm not sure where I'm going to start next year. It could be Maui. It could be the Middle East. Haven't quite made that decision yet, but after this week, I've got 4 weeks off, and I think that's when I'll decide.
Thank you.
Next up, Rex Hoggard, golfchannel.com.
Thanks, Rory. I know you were talking about what you do during the off season. I'm curious how much of those 4 weeks that you talked about is going to be dedicated to maybe whatever equipment tinkering that you may or may not do during the off season.
Yeah, a little bit. I don't think it's going to be too much. Pretty happy with everything that I've got in the bag. Obviously, TaylorMade release a new driver at the end of every year, so that's probably something that I'll look to try to test. I haven't hit the prototype yet. I know a few of the guys have, and have really liked it. So yeah, maybe try to have a look at that. But yeah, not really going to tinker too much. I think I'm pretty happy with the setup that I have, and it's just a matter of me getting the most out of the equipment. So yeah, it's I'll be mostly focused on myself and trying to do some work so that as I said at the start, I finish this year off well, and sort of try to hit the ground running in 22.
Thank you.
Last two here, Rory. Brian Keogh with Irish Golf Desk.
Hi, Rory. Just wondering, how would you assess how things have gone with Pete Cowan? Are you happy, about that relationship and what's going on there? And maybe Michael Bannon, will he be able to travel a little bit more? Because the restrictions have maybe been eased a little bit. What's happening there also? Thanks.
Yeah, I think the period with Pete's been good so far. I've certainly learned quite a bit from him. yeah, there's certainly been things in my game that have improved since I started to work with Pete. So yeah, I mean, that process is still, I mean, I guess it's still sort of ongoing, and yeah, Michael, hasn't been able to come over as much and everything. But as you said, with restrictions being lifted, I still keep in touch with Michael, and he doesn't miss a shot of mine, and he understands that I just wanted to go in a slightly different direction for a few months. But yeah, I'll I guess the next 4 weeks after here, I'm sort of I've got time to work on my game and see where everything is, and I'm sure I'll be speaking to both of them and sort of planning a way forward.
Could I just follow up just on the Ryder Cup? Have you been able to reflect on that result? Normally when a captain loses, by that margin, he gets quite a lot of criticism, but Padraig hasn't really received much. Are you surprised at that? And what do you think Europe has to do to make up that margin for the next time?
Yeah, I mean, look, from the whole process and being obviously involved and in the team room, and there's not much more Padraig could have done. Like, it's not, I said at the start, it's not, even before the week, the captains, they set the tone, and they, maybe create a little bit of the culture that week. But at the end of the day, it's us, it's the players that are out there, hitting the shots and trying to hold the putts, and Europe didn't hit the shots or hold the putts. And that was, when you look back on it, I mean, America just held so many more putts than we did and got momentum early. I think that's the thing as well. They started matches so quick, and then they get the crowd on their side, they get momentum, and when you're the away side and trying to fight back from that, it's very difficult. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't, I certainly couldn't sit here and criticize anything that Padraig did. It was on the players to play better golf and hold putts, and we didn't do that.
Thank you.
Last question here, Ben Evero with PGAtour.com.
Hey mate, have you got a story or an anecdote or something that quantifies the fact that we always talk about how this tour is much deeper now, much harder to win, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, you play with, players that, like for Keith Mitchell, right? This is the very anecdotal story, but played the final round with him at Quill Hollow last season, and he was maybe one ahead of me or whatever it was, and he came out and he hits it in the left bunker on one, hits an unbelievable 7-iron to like 10 feet, holds the putt, and I just they're so deep that people wouldn't maybe pick a Keith Mitchell to win a tournament at the start of a week, but you play with him in a final round on a Sunday, and he stopped me in my tracks that day. I'm like, he is a hell of a player. It's just stuff like, it's and people don't realize that, and they don't realize, and that's, I mean, you could say that about 100 guys out there that depending on who you play with, and I think that's the thing. It's you turn up to a PGA Tour event, like a typical event where there's 144, 156 players, and you feel like 3/4 of the field have a chance to win, and that's I think that just sort of illustrates how deep the fields are, and and it's tough to win, right? You're gonna, I've had a couple of seasons where I've won 4 and 5 times, and that's really, I think nowadays that's an achievement. The seasons of sort of 10 wins, like VJ and Tiger, obviously multiple times, and I don't know if we're gonna, I mean, maybe I'll be wrong, but I don't know if we're going to see them again. I think a really good season nowadays is sort of 3 wins is exceptional, 2 wins is very good, and then anything like above 3 is, you're the best player in the world at that point.
Yeah, that sort of stole on my follow-up there, but we haven't had 6 win or more seasons since '09, so 5 wins on the PGA Tour has been the most in that 11-year span.
Yeah.
So you don't think that we'll necessarily see a 7 or 8, 9, 10 in a long time, mate?
Look, I could be wrong. but it's certainly trending in that direction. And you're saying, people, someone hasn't won more than 5 times since 2009. So, I mean, that's over a decade. So it seems like that's, unless John Rahm maybe has the potential, like this year, he could have went on a tear, he had a couple of unlucky things happen, but yeah, I mean, I think anyone out here, if you told them they were going to win 4 times in a year, they'd take your hand off.
Cheers.
Rory, we have one follow-up from Doug to close.
So Rory, on the flip side of that, does it surprise you, and you can speak from experience, obviously, that someone like DJ hasn't won on tour this year?
It's funny. I had breakfast with him this morning, and I said, "Oh, you're gonna start in Maui like you usually do?" And he goes, "I'm not in." I was like, "Oh, sorry." So yeah, I mean, there you go. DJ's the 2nd-ranked player in the world, and he didn't win on tour last year. I mean, it just shows you how tough it is.
So what's the separation? When you're talking about, the 3/4 of the entire membership can win any given week, where does the separation come from? What makes guys get it done and guys not? And
I think
not talking about.
I think nowadays it's putting yourself in position every week. I think there's a difference. I think you got to look at the guys that like top 10 it a lot, that are always around the top of the leaderboard. There's just you just have to be patient and know that your week is going to come where the chips fall in your favor, and you hole a few putts at the right time and you get the job done. So I think that's always the key to winning, is putting yourself in position. The more times you do that, because there's a lot of chance in winning a golf tournament, unless you play exceptionally well and you take a 4 or 5 shot lead into the weekend and you sort of pull away that way. But whenever there's a bunch of guys around the lead on a Sunday, there's so many things that have to fall in your favor for you to end up holding the trophy.
And lastly, unless I misread this information wrong, you were at 19 tour wins. Is 20 a big deal? Is 20 a nice number that gets your attention, or
yeah, 100% means you don't have to play a minimum, and you don't have to play. Yeah, I mean, lifetime membership on the PGA Tour is a pretty nice carrot.
Once you put in 15 years.
I'm close. I'm close. This is like, I think this is 13 for me, so a couple more years.
I just don't want you to fall into the trap of maybe winning this week and not being lifetime member, because you still got 2 more years to go.
That's okay. I thank you for the information, Doug. I appreciate that.
Have a good week.
See you. Thanks.
Appreciate the time as always, Rory. Good luck this week.
Thank you.